Ladies and gentlemen, imagine waking up one day and realizing that the person you trusted most has let you down, that the foundation of your relationship has cracked, and every promise feels fragile. It's a moment that can break your heart, shake your soul, and make you question everything. But today, I want to show you that broken trust does not mean broken love. It does not mean the end. In fact, it can be the beginning, a beginning of healing, growth, and a connection stronger than you ever imagined. Because when honesty, consistency, communication, emotional transparency, growth, and patience come together, trust can be rebuilt, relationships can transform, and love can rise again. Healing starts with honesty, and there's something deeply powerful about that truth. When trust breaks in a relationship, it does not shatter in silence. It falls apart piece by piece, sometimes through lies, sometimes through secrets, sometimes through things left unsaid. And when two people finally stand in the ruins of what used to be love, the very first step toward rebuilding is not forgiveness, not apologies, not promises for the future. It is honesty, raw, uncomfortable, unfiltered honesty. The kind that makes your voice shake and your heart feel heavy, but also the kind that frees you from the weight you've been carrying for too long. Honesty isn't just saying what happened. It's admitting why it happened. It's telling the truth even when the truth exposes your flaws, your weakness, your selfish moments, or the times you acted from fear instead of love. Most people want to rebuild trust without opening themselves up. They want the relationship to heal while still hiding parts of their story. But you can't build something strong on a cracked foundation. If the base isn't solid, everything you place on top of it will eventually fall again. That's why honesty has to come first. It clears the ground, removes the rubble, and gives both people a chance to stand on something real. A relationship breaks when truth leaves the room. It heals when truth comes back. And truth is not always gentle. Sometimes honesty makes the other person cry. Sometimes it makes them angry. Sometimes it makes them step back because they need space to process what they just heard. But even that pain is better than living in confusion or suspicion. Honesty gives clarity, and clarity gives direction. Without that, both partners walk around guessing, assuming, or trying to fill the gaps with their imagination. And imagination, especially when hurt is involved, is dangerous. It turns small mistakes into big betrayals in the mind. It turns doubt into fear. It makes love feel unsafe. Honesty, even if it's difficult, is what calms the storm inside someone's heart. The kind of honesty needed to rebuild trust is the kind that holds nothing back. It requires you to look in the mirror and acknowledge the parts of yourself you've been avoiding. It forces you to confront your choices and the impact they had. It demands that you let go of your pride, your ego, and your desire to be right, because healing isn't about winning an argument. It's about choosing the relationship over your ego. It's about showing the other person that they deserve the truth, that they matter enough for you to stop hiding, and that you respect them enough to be transparent even when it's uncomfortable. Honesty is not just spoken, it's felt. People can sense when you're telling the truth and when you're still holding something back. Tone, body language, the pauses between your words, the way your eyes move when you speak. Everything speaks. That's why genuine honesty has a different energy. It's not rehearsed. It's not polished. It doesn't sound like a script. It sounds like a heart trying to make things right again. And when someone feels that kind of sincerity, even if they are hurt, something inside them begins to soften. Honesty doesn't instantly fix everything, but it opens the door. There is another side to this. Honesty isn't just for the person who broke the trust. It's also for the one who was hurt. They must be honest about what they feel and what they need. Sometimes they hide their pain because they don't want to seem weak or needy. Sometimes they stay quiet because they don't want to push the other person away. But silence builds resentment, and resentment is a slow poison. If you want the relationship to heal, you have to speak your truth, your hurt, your fear, your expectations, your boundaries. Healing cannot happen if only one person is willing to be honest. It requires courage on both sides. Honesty also means being truthful about what you want moving forward. Are you rebuilding just because you're afraid to be alone? Are you staying because of love or because of history? Are you willing to do the work, or are you hoping things magically fall into place? When two people answer these questions honestly, the path becomes clearer. Healing becomes a choice, not a guess, and choices built on truth last longer than decisions built on fear. The journey of rebuilding trust can feel like walking through fire, but honesty is the water that cools the flames. It's the only way to reconnect hearts that have drifted apart. It teaches you to be vulnerable, to be open, to be real, not just for your partner, but for yourself. Because at the end of the day, honesty is not just about repairing a relationship. It's about becoming the kind of person who lives in truth instead of hiding from it. When honesty becomes your foundation, trust grows naturally over time, and love becomes stronger than the mistakes that tried to break it. When you choose honesty, you choose healing. When you choose honesty, you choose growth. When you choose honesty, you choose a future built on something that cannot be shaken. Consistency is the quiet language of trust, the kind of language that doesn't need dramatic speeches or grand gestures to be understood. It speaks through actions repeated over time, through small commitments kept, through patterns that show stability rather than chaos. When trust has been broken in a relationship, consistency becomes more important than apologies, promises, or emotional moments. Because anyone can say, "I'm sorry," anyone can say, "I'll change," but only consistency proves it. Only consistency turns words into something you can rely on. People think healing is about one big moment, but it's actually about many small moments done with intention. Consistency is waking up every day and choosing to rebuild, even on the days when it's uncomfortable or inconvenient. It is the repeated decision to show up for your partner in ways you may not have before. It's being where you said you would be, doing what you said you would do, and becoming the person you claimed you wanted to be. It's creating a pattern of reliability that replaces the pattern of broken trust. When someone is hurt, they become sensitive to inconsistencies. Every small shift, every unexplained change, every broken routine feels like a warning sign. That's why consistency isn't optional when you're rebuilding trust. It's essential. Consistency is also not about perfection. It's about direction. You don't have to get everything right every day, but you have to keep moving in the right direction. Trust is rebuilt one action at a time, not in sudden leaps. When you consistently communicate, consistently follow through, consistently show care, and consistently keep boundaries, your partner begins to feel safe again. Safety is the foundation for emotional intimacy. Without safety, walls stay up. Without consistency, safety never comes back. Consistency becomes even more powerful when it fills in the gaps where doubt used to live. When trust is broken, doubt becomes louder than love. The mind starts expecting disappointment, the heart becomes guarded, but when someone sees the same honest effort day after day, the doubt begins to fade, the heart slowly relaxes, the mind starts believing again. It's not because of one big thing you did, it's because of 1,000 small things you kept doing even when no one was clapping, even when no one was praising you, even when progress felt slow. Part of consistency is transparency. When you're transparent, you don't leave room for assumptions, misunderstandings, or silent insecurities. You keep communication open. You proactively check in. You don't disappear. You don't leave things unclear. And you don't let your partner guess what's going on. Transparency builds a rhythm of trust because it shows you have nothing to hide. It reassures the other person that their heart is not in the hands of someone unpredictable. Consistency also works both ways. Healing is not a one-sided journey. The person who is hurt also has to be consistent in how they respond. They have to consistently express their feelings instead of holding them in. They have to consistently communicate their needs instead of burying them. They have to consistently show up for the healing process, even on the days when old wounds reopen, even on the days when their emotions feel overwhelming. When both partners are consistent, trust begins to rebuild with a steady rhythm. like two people walking in sync again after losing their step for a while. One of the biggest challenges with consistency is patience. Because consistency doesn't give instant results, it doesn't remove pain overnight, it doesn't rebuild trust in a week. It asks for time, effort, and emotional endurance. Sometimes you'll feel like your efforts aren't being noticed. Sometimes you'll feel like things aren't improving fast enough. But consistency isn't about quick results. It's about lasting change. The deeper the wound, the slower the healing. But slow healing is still healing. And consistent effort is what keeps the process moving, even if progress is subtle. Consistency is also about emotional regulation. If you want your partner to trust you again, you must show them that your emotions are not unpredictable or volatile. You must show stability. You must show that you can handle difficult conversations without running away or shutting down. You must show that you can be patient with their fears, gentle with their triggers, and present with their pain. And this has to happen not once, not twice, but over and over until it becomes part of who you are as a partner. Another part of consistency is creating a new history together. Old memories may still hurt, but new memories can begin to soften them. When you consistently show love, kindness, patience, accountability, and transparency, you create new experiences that slowly replace the old narrative. You don't erase the past, you outgrow it. You build a future that becomes stronger than the mistakes that once tried to destroy your relationship. And that future is built one consistent action at a time. When rebuilding trust, consistency becomes a daily commitment. It's in the way you speak, the way you listen, the way you act, the way you show love, the way you take responsibility, and the way you stand firm even when it's difficult. It's not dramatic, it's not flashy, but it is powerful. It changes the emotional climate of the relationship. It gives your partner something steady to hold on to. It helps them breathe a little easier, love a little freer, and believe in you a little more each day. Consistency proves that the relationship matters. It proves that healing is a priority. It proves that change is real, not temporary. And when someone sees that kind of stability over time, trust doesn't just return, it grows even stronger than before. Communication after trust has been broken is not the same as communication before it. Once trust is damaged, every word carries weight, every silence raises questions, and every conversation holds the potential to heal or harm. Open communication becomes more than just talking. It becomes the bridge that connects two hearts that have drifted apart. It is the only path back to understanding, and without it, the relationship cannot breathe again. But communication at this stage requires a different kind of honesty, a different kind of patience, and a deeper emotional openness than before. When you're trying to rebuild trust, open communication means saying the things you avoided, sharing the feelings you tried to swallow, and facing the conversations you once ran away from. It means creating a space where both partners can express their truth without fear of judgment or rejection. This kind of communication requires courage because you're not just talking about surface-level issues. You're exposing vulnerability, and vulnerability is uncomfortable. It's raw. It makes you feel exposed. But without it, intimacy cannot return. If the heart stays closed, the relationship stays wounded. Open communication also means listening, not just hearing words, but understanding what lies beneath them. Most people listen only to respond, but rebuilding trust demands that you listen to understand. When your partner is expressing hurt, you listen with empathy instead of defending yourself. When they share their fears, you listen with patience instead of dismissing them. When they talk about the pain caused by past actions, you listen with humility instead of denying or minimizing it. Listening becomes a form of love. It tells your partner, your feelings matter, your pain matters, your experience matters. Communication also requires clarity. When trust is broken, ambiguity becomes dangerous. Vague explanations, unclear intentions, and half-truths create more confusion. The person who was hurt starts filling in the blanks with their fears, imagining possibilities that may not even be true. That's why open communication needs clarity. You explain your actions with honesty. You answer questions openly. You don't leave gaps for insecurity to grow. You don't hide behind excuses or short answers just to move past uncomfortable moments. Healing happens when both people are willing to say the whole truth, not just the convenient parts. Another part of open communication is emotional regulation. When you talk about painful topics, emotions rise naturally: anger, sadness, frustration, disappointment. But if communication turns into yelling, blaming, or shutting down, the healing stops. Open communication means learning to speak calmly even when emotions are intense. It means discussing the issue, not attacking the person. It means expressing your feelings instead of weaponizing them. When your partner sees that you can stay emotionally grounded during hard conversations, they start feeling safe again. They begin to believe that conflict won't destroy the relationship anymore. Open communication also means asking the right questions and being willing to answer them. When trust breaks, the hurt partner often needs clarity to feel secure again. They may ask about the past, about intentions, about feelings, about boundaries. The person trying to rebuild trust has to answer these questions honestly, without irritation or defensiveness. This can be uncomfortable, especially if the questions feel repetitive, but repetition is part of healing. Every honest answer becomes a brick in the foundation of trust. Every moment of patience becomes a step toward peace. At the same time, the hurt partner also has a responsibility to communicate in a healthy way. They need to express their emotions, not suppress them. They need to explain their triggers so their partner understands what causes pain. They need to share what they need moving forward: more reassurance, clearer boundaries, more transparency. Sometimes they struggle to speak because they fear their emotions will be too heavy or too much, but healing requires honesty from both sides. Silence might feel easier, but it creates distance. Speaking with openness creates connection. There is another crucial aspect of communication: consistency. Communication cannot only happen during emotional moments or arguments. It has to become a regular part of the relationship. Regular check-ins matter. Daily conversations matter. Updates matter. Sharing thoughts and feelings throughout the day matters. These small moments build intimacy. They make the relationship feel alive again. When communication becomes consistent, misunderstandings decrease, assumptions fade, and both partners feel more connected. Open communication also means sharing your internal world, your fears, your hopes, your thoughts, your struggles, your insecurities. When trust is broken, both people can become emotionally guarded. They share less, they reveal less, they protect themselves by hiding behind silence. But love cannot rebuild behind emotional walls. The more you share, the more your partner knows you. The more they know you, the more they can understand your behavior. The more they understand, the fewer misunderstandings you face. Vulnerability becomes a path to closeness rather than a source of fear. One important part of communication during healing is apology. Not the quick kind, not the scripted kind, but the sincere kind. An apology is not just "I'm sorry." It is explaining what you understand about your actions, acknowledging how they affected your partner, and expressing a genuine desire to do better. And apologies don't only come once. Sometimes they need to be repeated in different ways as healing unfolds. Communication is how you show accountability, not just regret. Healthy communication also includes expressing gratitude. When trust is broken, the relationship can feel heavy with pain. Gratitude becomes a way to remind each other of what's still good. Thanking your partner for their patience, acknowledging their effort to heal, appreciating their willingness to try again, these things soften the emotional environment. Gratitude doesn't erase pain, but it brings warmth into a place that can easily become cold. Open communication is not always easy. It brings up old wounds, it challenges ego, it tests patience, but it also rebuilds the heart of the relationship. It creates closeness stronger than before. It helps both partners understand each other deeply, honestly, and compassionately. When communication becomes open and consistent, trust slowly returns, and not just trust, connection, intimacy, peace, and emotional safety all begin to rise again. Communication is the bridge back to each other. Without it, love has no direction. With it, even the most broken relationship can find its way back to healing and growth. Rebuilding trust requires more than apologies, honesty, or communication. It demands emotional transparency, the kind of openness that reveals not just what you did, but who you are, what you feel, and what you fear. When trust is broken, both partners instinctively pull back to protect themselves. One hides guilt, the other hides pain. One avoids shame, the other avoids vulnerability. But true healing begins only when both sides are willing to open the doors they kept locked, to share the thoughts they buried, and to expose the emotions they tried to hide. Emotional transparency is the courage to be seen, not the filtered version, not the strong version, not the calm version, but the real version. When trust breaks, insecurity grows. The partner who was hurt begins questioning everything, your intentions, your truth, your loyalty, even your love. Emotional transparency is how you calm those doubts. It means expressing your feelings before they explode. It means explaining your internal struggles instead of acting out in ways that create confusion. It means telling your partner what triggers you, what scares you, what overwhelms you. This isn't weakness, it is responsibility. It shows your partner that they aren't left guessing anymore. They don't have to decode your silence or interpret your moods. Instead, they see your emotions the moment you feel them, and that clarity brings safety. Transparency also builds trust because it eliminates the shadows where fear hides. When someone has been hurt before, their mind stays alert. Every shift in tone, every pause, every emotional withdrawal feels like a warning sign. If you shut down emotionally, they assume the worst. If you avoid conversations, they assume you're hiding something. If you seem distant, they assume you're pulling away. Transparency removes this guessing game. It gives them insight into your inner world so their heart doesn't panic every time something feels off. You're not giving them control, you're giving them clarity, and clarity is essential when trust has been damaged. Emotional transparency also requires that you don't disguise your emotions with anger or detachment. Many people hide their pain behind irritation or jokes or silence because they fear being vulnerable, but those masks create distance, and distance creates doubt. If you want your partner to trust you again, you have to replace emotional masks with emotional truth. If you feel guilt, admit it. If you feel afraid, say it. If you feel confused, share it. Even if the emotions are messy or complicated, expressing them honestly builds intimacy. When your partner sees your genuine feelings, they begin to understand you again. That understanding becomes a bridge back to closeness. Transparency is not just about revealing your emotions. It's also about being open to your partner's emotions. You cannot demand honesty from them while hiding your own truth. You cannot expect them to share their pain while you keep your heart guarded. When one person opens up emotionally, the other feels safer to do the same. Transparency becomes a reciprocal dance where both people gradually peel back the layers of fear and protection. You create a shared emotional space where both hearts can exist without judgment, defensiveness, or pressure. Emotional transparency also means admitting when you're struggling and asking for support instead of pretending everything is fine. Many partners break trust because they tried to fight their internal battles alone. They didn't ask for help. They didn't share their fears. They didn't express their stress. Instead, they made decisions in isolation, and those decisions created pain. Transparency breaks that cycle. It teaches you to turn toward your partner instead of away from them when life gets hard. It teaches you to say, "I need you," not as dependence but as connection, and that connection becomes part of the healing. You also have to be transparent about your progress. If you're working on yourself, share it. Tell your partner what changes you're making, what challenges you're facing, what growth you're experiencing. Don't make them guess whether you're trying. Tell them, show them, update them. Transparency here isn't about reporting, it's about reassurance. When trust has been broken, reassurance is necessary. Reassurance shows effort, effort builds belief, and belief keeps the relationship moving forward even when emotions are fragile. Another important part of emotional transparency is sharing your boundaries and respecting theirs. Healing doesn't mean ignoring what you need to feel safe. It means expressing it clearly so both partners understand the emotional limits. If you need time to process something, say it. If certain topics trigger you, explain it. If you need reassurance, voice it. If you need a pause during conflict to calm down, communicate it. And when your partner expresses their boundaries, honor them with sincerity. Transparency with boundaries prevents misunderstandings and reduces emotional explosions. It creates a structure where both people feel emotionally safe enough to heal. Emotional transparency also brings humility into the relationship. It requires admitting when you don't have all the answers. It requires acknowledging the impact of your actions. It requires recognizing your partner's pain without minimizing it. When both partners practice humility, emotional transparency becomes natural. The relationship becomes a space of learning instead of blaming, a space of growth instead of fear. Humility softens the heart, making transparency easier to offer and easier to accept. Transparency, however, also requires emotional maturity. You must be able to express your emotions without using them as weapons. You must share your feelings without making them your partner's fault. You must reveal your fears without letting them turn into accusations. Emotional transparency means vulnerability, not volatility. It means sharing, not unloading. It means opening up, not exploding. When you express your emotions responsibly, your partner feels safe enough to express theirs too. That mutual safety becomes the soil where trust slowly grows again. Sometimes emotional transparency reveals truths that are uncomfortable. You might uncover wounds you didn't know you had. You might see parts of yourself that need healing. You might confront habits you didn't want to face. But this discomfort is part of the transformation. Healing does not happen in comfort. It happens in awareness, and awareness comes through emotional openness. When both partners are willing to navigate emotional discomfort together, the relationship becomes stronger than the one they had before the trust was broken. Transparency also deepens empathy. When you know each other's inner worlds, what hurts, what scares, what inspires, what triggers, you stop seeing each other as enemies in conflict and start seeing each other as humans trying to grow. Empathy replaces judgment. Connection replaces distance. Compassion replaces resentment. And slowly, the relationship begins to breathe again. Emotional transparency is not a one-time act. It is a lifelong practice. It is a daily choice. It is the foundation of a relationship that wants to grow, evolve, and last. Without it, trust stays fragile. With it, trust becomes unbreakable because both hearts are finally seen, heard, and understood in ways that make hiding unnecessary. When emotional transparency becomes the norm, healing becomes possible, growth becomes real, and the relationship becomes stronger than the past that tried to break it. Growth is the essential heartbeat of rebuilding trust in any relationship, because without growth, the cycle of hurt repeats itself. Trust doesn't restore itself simply through apologies, promises, or even transparency. True trust is rebuilt when both partners commit to evolving, personally, emotionally, and relationally, so that the mistakes of the past no longer define the future. Growth is not a single act. It is a series of conscious choices, daily improvements, and inner shifts that reshape the way each person interacts with themselves, with their partner, and with the relationship as a whole. Without it, old patterns reemerge, old wounds reopen, and even the best intentions fall short. Growth begins with self-awareness. Each partner must examine themselves honestly, without excuses and without deflection. You must look at your actions and see the consequences they caused. You must ask yourself why you acted the way you did, what fears or insecurities motivated those choices, and how those patterns might continue if left unaddressed. This is not easy work. Self-awareness requires courage because it often shines light on parts of ourselves we'd rather ignore. But until we understand our own role in the breakdown of trust, we cannot contribute fully to the healing process. Awareness leads to accountability, and accountability lays the groundwork for real growth. It is not about blame, but about understanding, reflection, and the willingness to evolve. Growth also means learning from mistakes instead of repeating them. Trust is broken when actions undermine safety and security. If the same behaviors are repeated, trust remains fractured. To grow is to actively identify destructive habits, whether they are dishonesty, avoidance, neglect, or emotional immaturity, and to replace them with healthier, more constructive behaviors. It is the conscious effort to interrupt old patterns and respond differently. Growth asks each partner to practice patience, to be aware of triggers, and to respond thoughtfully instead of reactively. Over time, these small adjustments in behavior accumulate into profound changes that signal real transformation to the partner who was hurt. Growth is not only personal but also relational. It involves learning how to navigate the relationship with new awareness. How do you communicate effectively under stress? How do you honor your partner's boundaries while still expressing your own needs? How do you balance independence with intimacy? Growth in the relationship requires understanding dynamics that may have previously caused tension and finding new ways to interact that prioritize trust, respect, and connection. It is a deliberate process of changing the emotional environment from one of suspicion, fear, or hurt into one of safety, support, and mutual understanding. Part of growth is building resilience. Healing from broken trust is rarely linear. There will be setbacks, doubts, and moments of frustration or anger. Growth equips both partners to handle these moments without giving up. It requires learning to tolerate discomfort, to manage strong emotions, and to stay committed even when the process feels slow or painful. Resilience allows each person to maintain faith in the relationship and in the process of rebuilding trust, even when uncertainty looms large. Without resilience, the natural challenges of reconciliation can easily derail progress, leaving old wounds open and trust unsteady. Growth also involves cultivating emotional intelligence. Each partner must become more aware of their own emotions, the way they influence behavior, and how they impact the other person. Emotional intelligence allows partners to communicate effectively, regulate their responses, and empathize with each other's experiences. It teaches one to pause before reacting, to listen deeply, and to consider the impact of words and actions. When emotional intelligence is practiced consistently, it reduces misunderstandings, prevents unnecessary conflict, and fosters a climate where trust can flourish. The growth of emotional intelligence is especially critical after trust is broken, because emotional immaturity often contributes to patterns that damage the relationship in the first place. Growth requires commitment to change over time. Healing trust cannot be rushed. It cannot be achieved through one grand gesture or a temporary display of good behavior. Instead, growth is a continuous, consistent effort. Each day offers opportunities to demonstrate reliability, accountability, and care. Each interaction becomes a chance to show that you have evolved and are capable of contributing positively to the relationship. When partners see ongoing growth, they are reassured that change is authentic, not performative, and trust slowly begins to re-establish itself. Part of relational growth also involves setting and respecting boundaries. Each partner must recognize what behaviors are harmful and what conditions are necessary for safety. Growth entails learning to navigate disagreements without violating these boundaries and ensuring that actions align with the commitments made to one another. By consistently honoring boundaries, each partner demonstrates that they respect the other's needs and emotional well-being. Boundaries become a visible measure of progress and a framework that supports rebuilding trust in practical, tangible ways. Growth requires reflection and adaptation. As both partners evolve, they must remain flexible and open to learning new ways of relating. The patterns that once caused harm may not be immediately visible, and unexpected challenges can arise. Growth is the willingness to recognize these moments, to reassess behavior, and to adjust actions accordingly. It's not rigid or stagnant. It is dynamic, responsive, and ongoing. When growth is embraced as a lifelong process, it transforms the relationship into a space where trust is nurtured continuously rather than being a fragile, temporary state. Forgiveness is intertwined with growth. For trust to be rebuilt, the hurt partner must be willing to forgive, not in a superficial way, but as a conscious choice to release resentment and embrace the possibility of change. Forgiveness is only possible when both partners demonstrate growth, when the offending partner shows authentic improvement, and the hurt partner cultivates patience and understanding. Growth allows forgiveness to be more than a word. It becomes a lived experience, a step-by-step process reinforced by changed behavior, deeper understanding, and emotional maturity. Finally, growth transforms not just the relationship, but the individuals within it. Trust is rebuilt not simply because of reconciliation, but because both partners have developed into stronger, more aware, and more empathetic individuals. The lessons learned through growth create a foundation for lasting connection, stronger intimacy, and a partnership that can withstand future challenges. When both people commit to evolving personally and relationally, the relationship doesn't just recover, it thrives in a way that reflects wisdom, experience, and mutual respect. Growth ensures that the past no longer dictates the future, but instead serves as a guide for making the relationship more resilient, more compassionate, and more deeply rooted in trust. Patience is the invisible thread that holds together every attempt to rebuild trust, and it is one of the most difficult yet essential elements in healing a broken relationship. Trust is not a switch that flips back on once apologies are said or promises are made. It is a slow, deliberate process that requires time, effort, and emotional endurance. Without patience, the process collapses under frustration, doubt, and unrealistic expectations. Many people fail to realize that the road to restored trust is long and winding, full of emotional potholes and unexpected turns. Patience allows both partners to navigate these challenges without giving up, without retreating into fear, and without sabotaging the very connection they are trying to rebuild. When trust is broken, emotions run high. The hurt partner may be skeptical, guarded, or even hostile at times. Their reactions may feel unfair, irrational, or exaggerated, but they are valid expressions of pain and vulnerability. The partner who seeks to rebuild trust must recognize that these reactions are part of the healing process and respond with patience rather than defensiveness. Every negative response, every doubt, every question is not a rejection. It is a cry for reassurance, for proof that change is real. Patience allows the healing partner to stay calm, to listen actively, and to respond with empathy instead of irritation, realizing that these moments are opportunities to reinforce commitment and demonstrate reliability. Patience also involves tolerance for imperfection, both your own and your partner's. No one can rebuild trust flawlessly. Mistakes will happen. Old patterns may surface unexpectedly. Emotions may flare at inconvenient times. Being patient means understanding that progress is not linear. A single misstep does not erase all the efforts made. Instead, it is part of the learning curve. By embracing patience, both partners can maintain perspective, acknowledge progress, and continue forward instead of abandoning the relationship at the first sign of struggle. Patience transforms frustration into understanding and urgency into steady, deliberate action. Another dimension of patience is self-control. It is the ability to regulate impulses, temper reactions, and pause before responding emotionally. When trust is broken, it is easy to react defensively or demand immediate validation. However, patience teaches restraint. It allows space for reflection, thoughtful responses, and intentional actions rather than reactive behaviors that can further damage the fragile bond. Self-control also communicates maturity and commitment. It signals to your partner that you are not driven by immediate gratification or emotional impulsiveness, but by a long-term desire to rebuild a solid foundation. Patience is equally important for the partner who was hurt. Healing from betrayal or broken trust is not instantaneous. Emotional wounds take time to mend, and the hurt partner must allow themselves the grace to process emotions, to grieve, and to regain confidence in the relationship. Rushing forgiveness or forcing reconciliation before genuine readiness can lead to resentment or superficial trust. Patience on the part of the hurt partner ensures that rebuilding occurs at a pace that is authentic and sustainable. Both partners must respect the timing and emotional rhythm of each other's recovery to prevent setbacks and cultivate genuine restoration. Time is a crucial factor in patience. Trust is rebuilt over days, weeks, months, and sometimes years. It is reinforced through repeated actions that demonstrate reliability, honesty, and commitment. Patience allows you to recognize that these repeated efforts, even small ones, accumulate into a foundation strong enough to support renewed trust. It requires the wisdom to see beyond immediate frustrations and the emotional maturity to understand that change is gradual. The passage of time, when paired with consistent effort, transforms uncertainty into assurance and skepticism into belief. Patience also involves perspective. When rebuilding trust, it is essential to remember why the relationship is worth saving. This perspective provides motivation to endure difficult conversations, setbacks, or moments of doubt. By keeping the ultimate goal of a healthy, secure, and meaningful connection in mind, patience becomes easier to sustain. It allows both partners to move past temporary discomfort and focus on long-term growth. Perspective prevents impatience from undermining progress and reinforces the understanding that healing is not about quick fixes, but about enduring transformation. Another critical aspect of patience is empathy. To remain patient, you must place yourself in your partner's shoes, imagine the depth of their hurt, and understand the internal obstacles they face. Empathy softens judgment, reduces frustration, and fosters compassion. It reminds you that their reactions, fears, and doubts are not attacks against you, but manifestations of pain and vulnerability. Patience coupled with empathy allows for nurturing communication, supportive actions, and reassurance that the relationship is being rebuilt on solid ground. Patience also strengthens resilience. The path to restored trust is rarely smooth. Conflicts may reemerge, misunderstandings may arise, and old insecurities may surface. Impatience in these moments can trigger setbacks, defensiveness, or abandonment. Resilience cultivated through patience ensures that both partners can endure these challenges without losing hope or momentum. Each hurdle becomes an opportunity to deepen understanding, reinforce commitments, and demonstrate steadfast dedication to the relationship. Patience transforms obstacles into stepping stones, setbacks into lessons, and moments of doubt into chances for growth. Furthermore, patience teaches humility. It acknowledges that rebuilding trust is not about speed or proving immediate results. It is about demonstrating steady, sincere effort over time. Humility allows both partners to accept that mistakes will happen, that healing is a shared responsibility, and that trust cannot be rushed. It reminds individuals to focus on progress, not perfection, and to celebrate incremental improvements rather than despairing over setbacks. Humility combined with patience creates a nurturing environment where trust can be restored authentically. Patience also fosters long-term commitment. By maintaining a calm, steady approach, both partners signal that the relationship is valued beyond the immediate frustration of past mistakes. This enduring commitment reinforces trust more than any single apology or promise ever could. When patience is practiced consistently, it shows that the bond is stronger than the temporary setbacks, that love is resilient, and that both individuals are willing to invest the time and energy necessary for genuine restoration. Patience becomes a visible, living proof of dedication and care. Finally, patience allows love to breathe. It removes the pressure to rush reconciliation or to force outcomes. It gives space for emotions to settle, for understanding to deepen, and for genuine transformation to take root. Trust is fragile after being broken, but patience nurtures it back to life gradually. It ensures that the relationship grows on a foundation of authentic change, mutual respect, and enduring care. Patience does not simply wait for trust to return. It actively cultivates the conditions under which trust, once broken, can grow stronger than ever. When patience is embraced fully, every conversation, every gesture, and every action becomes a deliberate step toward rebuilding trust, creating a relationship that is not just restored but transformed, resilient, and deeply rooted in love, understanding, and mutual growth. In conclusion, rebuilding trust in a relationship is not a simple task, nor is it a journey that can be rushed. It requires honesty that exposes the heart, consistency that proves your commitment, open communication that bridges the gaps, emotional transparency that nurtures understanding, growth that transforms both individuals and the partnership, and patience that allows healing to take its natural course. Each of these elements works together like threads, weaving a strong, unbreakable fabric. Trust is not restored overnight, but with deliberate effort, courage, and dedication, a relationship can rise stronger than before, richer in connection, deeper in love, and resilient against future challenges. Remember, the process is as important as the outcome. Every step you take toward truth, accountability, and growth strengthens the foundation upon which love and trust can thrive again. To everyone listening today, I wish you the courage to be honest even when it's hard, the strength to remain consistent, the openness to communicate with heart, the bravery to show your emotions transparently, the dedication to grow, and the patience to endure the journey. May you rebuild not just trust, but a love that is stronger, wiser, and more meaningful than ever before. Good luck on your journey. Thank you for listening. Thank you for believing in the power of transformation, and thank you for choosing to create relationships rooted in honesty, growth, and love.